Okay, so today I'm going to be pulling up this flooring and see what's going on under there. That'll give me access to some of the plumbing, and I can expect some of those systems. I'm assuming this little plug right here is what goes to the water pump that pressurizes the water system. I'm not sure. It's one of the missing links yet. If it is down there, I'm a little disappointed that there's no real access to it. Maybe there's some access underneath that I haven't looked through. But I'm also looking for a way to get access to the gray water and black water tank, because I'd like to inspect those two and make sure they're in good condition before we move forward. Anyways, that's how I'm going to get started there. I'm going to do some Tim Pool, maybe a Care of the Dog, and again, I'm mostly recording this so that I can have access to this video later, just to track my progress. So maybe I'll mash all these videos together. Yesterday we got the spray foam into the ceiling done. It's looking pretty good. Anyways, let's move on. See what we got here. Should bring a big old gallon of water in here to drink.
Mission right now, and the culture war and all of this is related to it. It's everyone jockeying for position for who controls the federal government. That's why it spikes every 4 years when it's your president or my president's going to win. The debt is out of control. The money printing is out of control. This thing is we're obviously going off the cliff, and the only answer here is scale that, that's a pretty solid start. But scale this thing back, more local control, more community control, less federal control. And that's the only thing that can save
Yeah,
this
you can
country.
go that where people can choose where their tax dollars go and
Yes.
things. All right, we got some chat from Dr. Doctor. He says, what I'm saying, I think means seeing, what I'm saying is, as an air traffic controller with which is a highly complex situationally aware job, it was becoming more and more automated. If that kind of work is becoming automated, even coding is getting closer to being more automated and needing less coders. Well, coding language, could you imagine, what's the standard code? Is like basic or binary, I suppose. Could you imagine like hard coding something in just binary? No, we make coding languages that basically simplify the process and become easier and easier.
C#. Have you seen, in your experience with Minds, any advancements in AI writing the code?
Oh, there was a new AI like programming language that could generate programs automatically that MIT just put out. But yeah, I mean that's happening. Code that creates code. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just you're making more advanced code, so it simplifies to where look at website development. When I started making websites, I was doing actual HTML and things like that, right, way back in the day. And I started animating in Flash, and I was like, oh, this is great. Now we're at a point where it's like you drag and drop things. You know, it's like element, and then boop, you just drag and drop.
My favorite thing is when like some of these geniuses will come out and they're like, okay, this AI thing is really dangerous, but then they just go back to working on the AI after that. Like it's like we can't even control it. We're like, yeah, all right, this might be a problem, but I'm gonna keep going.
A ethical question about AI: if you make the software code free for the AI, so you know what it's doing, you can watch its software progress. Can you make it so it doesn't make itself proprietary, or is AI just in general can just disregard its own?
AI is not so self-knowledgeable that it can dictate its own accessibility to humans. I think that people think that AI is a lot more. There are risks,
Yeah.
but it's not like this alien force of higher intelligence that's like attacking us right now. I mean, we have the capability to control it.
Yeah, people think AI is going to be like Skynet and the Terminators. They think it's going to be like Ultron. In order to end all war, humans must be wiped out. In actuality, what's going to happen is, if you turn an AI to like manage the economy, all of a sudden one day you'd wake up and there would be no shirts, no shoes, a ridiculous amount of socks, and tons of corn everywhere. And you'd be like, wait, how do we get to the point?
But AI is a communist?
No, because the AI isn't going to do what you think it's going to do. It would take probably millions upon millions of iterations and simulations to get to the point where it functions properly. And even then, after 10 billion calculations, it for some reason finds let me slow down. Here's what I explain to people. In the future, we have an AI-regulated economy. You wake up, time to go to work. You look at your phone, and it gives you an address. You show up, and there's like a jagged piece of metal on top of a box. You pick it up, and your phone says, give it to this guy. You walk over to some guy, you give it to him. And then he says, thank you, and he walks away, and then, boom, $1,000 in your bank account. And you're like, I have no idea what I just did or why. Because the AI would be creating jobs you wouldn't understand or even think of, and then you wouldn't even know what was going on. And that's assuming the AI is actually working in a way to streamline the process. The AI can only do what its essentially base program tells it to do, so it might be like, corn is food, corn is cheap, corn takes less energy than other forms of energy, make corn. And then one day you go to the store, there's no beef, there's just a bunch of corn. And you're like, maybe this AI thing isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. The problem is, if that happens over the period of a few generations, people won't realize, and then you'll end up in a future where there's just only corn and other weird products and people are eating like protein cubes. Because the AI isn't going to do what you want it to do. And here's the best example. YouTube created an algorithm for finding the best content. They said, what do people like? They love shows that are long, like Game of Thrones. So we need something that has the right keywords in it, that's long-form content, and appeals to a wide audience. So they created this algorithm. What happened? People started cranking out videos of Hitler and the Incredible Hulk singing nursery rhymes together with like this weird, crappy CGI because it was generating more views. Those weren't specifically the videos that were the result of the 10-minute algorithm, but it was because of babies. So the YouTube algorithm was like, tons of the largest percentage of views come from this one area. They seem to like these themes. Promote these videos. So then people started auto-generating videos, and the ones that worked on YouTube were insane mishmash of garbage nonsense that made no sense. The Hulk in a bikini with a Hitler, but Hitler's actually got boobs. And I'm not kidding. It's a real video. And there were thousands upon thousands of them. So the human thought, people like these things, program it in, and then the AI over time started developing a taste for the most insane nonsense.
And then, so the humans who were making those videos were gaming the system.
Yep.
So the humans were smarter than the AI and were able to...
No. All they knew was this is what was getting traffic.
No, what I'm saying, the people who were making those videos with the Hitler with boobs on them and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like they were gaming the AI system. They
Seriously?
figured out how to do it.
Go on YouTube and search Finger Family Hitler, and you will see this video. It's a woman's body with a bikini with Hitler's head, with the Incredible Hulk, and he's doing Tai Chi, and it's singing a nursery rhyme that was recorded by some dude in India into like a microphone from the 80s. I mean it, 100%. This has been a problem for a long
A lot of
time.
views?
This particular video has like 30 or 40,000, but there was a period...
Still more than it deserves.
There was a period where there were hundreds of millions of these videos, because there was a big problem where there was a trend of videos that were like little kids getting injections and urinating on each other, because that's what was getting traffic. So because of that, that's what YouTube was promoting. People made more and more and more of it, which created a feedback loop. The more they made, the more views it got, the more refined into a point where insane stuff dominated YouTube and people were watching this stuff. The same thing is true of politics. So social media creates an algorithm saying, show us the things that get the most watch time and have the most keywords, and what happened was intersectional feminism. So I've explained this before, right? If an article about racism gets X views, and an article about sexism gets Y views, an article about racism and sexism gets X plus Y views, and in some instances it gets X Y views, so multiplication, and so YouTube starts promoting whatever has the most keywords in it. So when someone would write an article being like, Democratic trans women of color fighting with Republican alt-right neo-Nazis is the fight of our generation, it would get ridiculous amount of clicks, because the algorithm would be like, look at all these keywords, feed it out to all of these people, and they would see it. That made people go insane. So Facebook was dominated absolutely by police brutality videos because it got so much engagement. Rage, justice, people would share it, being like, I must do something. Then we ended up with the past 10 years of intersectionality because BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Vox, Mike, all realized that's how you would make money. That's what people wanted.
Right.
The people didn't really want that content. They were just being fed it by the algorithms on these social networks. So, long story short, we think the AI will be Skynet. Nah, it's just going to scream in your face Nazi 50 billion times.
It's possible that was a machine learning algorithm instead of an artificial intelligence.
Right, I understand the difference.
So I'd love to get an AI specialist on here someday to go deep into that, like the difference between machine learning and AI.
Right, they're not the same thing, right? So, anyway, if you haven't already, please smash that like button. And become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have, we might have a vlog episode up tomorrow over at youtube.com/castcastle. Because we have two, actually, but they're kind of the same, because we just spent the weekend grilling. But maybe let's put it up anyway, because, vlogs are vlogs, and if you guys want to watch it, you can watch it. And then we're going to be filming again, so more stuff's to come. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be going out to the range. I think in about a week, we'll be going to the range for one of the vlogs, and it'll be fun. A lot of fun stuff. So make sure you check that out. Go to timcast.com, become a member. You can now use Stripe, and make sure you go to the store and buy your Sheba to the Moon shirts. It's greatly appreciated. You can follow this show at facebook.com/TimcastIRL, share our videos, and on Instagram at TimcastIRL. We're live Monday to Friday at 8 p.m., so thanks for hanging out. If you want to shout anything out, Dave.
My podcast is part of the problem, and I will, if you're interested in my run for president, I will be speaking at the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus event in Pittsburgh on May 14th next week. Come out, check us out there. The Mises Caucus, Libertarian Party, that's all.
Hey, yeah, hit me up, minds.com/Outman, OTTMAN. Hit me up, let's do this.
Yo, I'm so ready. I just wish we could have talked more about the Fed. We could talk about this a lot more, man. We'll do it. And also, I think there's a new mug. Is that true? Is the Don't Put an Alligator Underwater mug?
I believe that is up.
It may actually be, in addition to our Shiba Inu to the Moon shirt, there is a
That's right.
Crossland.
The Ian Crossland Don't Fight an Alligator Underwater mug is also available. I didn't know if I was going to post.
You want to bring them on the land so that you can fight them on your terms. You really don't want to fight an alligator.
This is great art, by the way.
Fantastic art. Thank you guys so much. Ian Crossland on that.
For those that aren't familiar, we were talking about not getting dragged into these troll arguments where like someone will argue on Twitter, and then as soon as you counter their argument, they'll change the subject, and then Ian just goes, yeah, don't fight an alligator underwater. And I was like,
Mind
that was
blown.
very profound.
No, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah,
That is, yes.
I'm on land.
I have gotten dragged into way too many of those arguments.
Yep.
Trying very much to stop.
They'll say something to you where it's like, Joe Biden's the greatest, and you'll say, well, I personally take issue with Joe Biden's policy on this, and we'll go, yeah, well, you're a Nazi, so you were a bigot. That's the thing. It's like, you're not arguing anymore. You know, don't get dragged underwater with the alligator. You don't want to do it.
Just tell me about them and then walk away.
Yeah, there you go.
On Facebook, I usually just say, like, because I don't try to insult, I don't insult people. So I'll post something and then someone will start yelling at me because people are nasty, and I'll just be like, I'm sorry, I don't understand why you're so upset right now. And they'll be like, well, I'm just saying, and I'll be like, that's cool, appreciate it. I'm just, don't understand why you're angry. Why are we, I'm not yelling at you, you're not yelling at me, what's going on? Why are you doing that? Anyway.
And then me, yes, I'm in the corner. I would also like a mug, but I don't have any catchy sayings yet. So until then, you guys can just follow me on Twitter at SourPatchLids.
And never forget, don't fight an alligator underwater. We will see you all tomorrow, or maybe Sunday, tomorrow or Sunday, youtube.com/castcastle. Subscribe to our new vlog channel. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying to build like a 40-foot grind rail so that we can do a bunch of silly things on it. And I guess now we have to do stupid stuff like, Allison was like, we're going to get a swimming pool and zip line over it. And I'm like, I guess, because we got to film something, so.
Maybe a volleyball net in the pool. I'm into it.
There we go. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
You didn't have an after show with Dave Smith? No after show with Dave Smith? Kind of a rip-off. No after show with Dave Smith? Question mark.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, people haven't been traveling.
ones and saints. I don't even know if this will pick me up. Maybe I might be what I need. Think I gotta switch this shit up first. Got my brain, I'm just freestyle insane. It doesn't really matter what I'm saying, it's practicing the game. Cause the more I get out, long enough, it's gonna show through. And I can do this too. I can even do but you know, I'm on the mind from the spirit. Maybe something you never heard before. I'm out in it, might be something nature. Something that you just got. Maybe the oligarchy burned in the fire. I happen to know that what I'm doing right now is speaking tongues, bro. Speaking tongues, bro. You're getting in my butt, but I'm not sure it's true, and I don't give a fuck. Think it's entertainment, maybe that's how I would just make it all right. Something that we can do. We're talking about
There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Boarding boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit,
And then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" What the hell is water? What the hell is water? This is a standard requirement of U.S. commencement speeches, the deployment of didactic little parable-ish stories. The story thing turns out to be one of the better, less bullshitty conventions of the genre. But if you're worried that I plan to present myself here as the wise older fish explaining what water is to you younger fish, please don't be. I am not the wise old fish. The point of the fish story is merely that the most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. Stated as an English sentence, of course, this is just a banal platitude. But the fact is that in the day-to-day trenches of adult existence, banal platitudes can have a life or death importance. Or so I wish to suggest to you on this dry and lovely morning. What the hell is water? 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 Of course, the main requirement of speeches like this is that I'm supposed to talk about your liberal arts education's meaning. To try to explain why the degree you're about to receive has actual human value instead of just a material payoff. So let's talk about the single most pervasive cliche in the commencement speech genre, which is that a liberal arts education is not so much about filling you up with knowledge as it is about, quote, teaching you how to think. If you're like me as a student, you never like hearing this, and you tend to feel a bit insulted by the claim that you've needed anybody to teach you how to think. Since the fact that you even get admitted to a college this good seems like proof that you already know how to think. But I'm going to posit to you that the liberal arts cliche turns out not to be insulting at all. Because the really significant education in thinking that we're supposed to get in a place like this isn't really about the capacity to think, but rather about the choice of what to think about. If your total freedom of choice regarding what to think about seems too obvious to waste time discussing, I'd ask you to think about fish and water and to bracket for just a few minutes your skepticism about the value of the totally obvious. What the hell is water? 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 Everything in my own immediate experience supported my team belief that I was the absolute center of the universe. and important person in existence. We rarely talk about this sort of natural, basic self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive. But it's pretty much the same for all of us. It is our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth. Think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not at the absolute center of. The world as you experience it is there in front of you, or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. The world as you experience it is there in front of you, or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor, and so on. Other people's thoughts and feelings have to be communicated to you somehow, but your own are so immediate, urgent, real. Please don't worry that I'm getting ready to lecture you about compassion or other directedness or all the so-called virtues. This is not a matter of virtue. It's a matter of my choosing to do the work of somehow altering or getting free of my natural, hardwired default setting, which is to be deeply and literally self-centered, and to see and interpret everything through this lens of self. People who can adjust their natural default setting this way are often described as being well-adjusted, which I suggest to you is not an accidental term. The world as you experience it is there in front of you, or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. The world as you experience it is there in front of you, or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor. divine revelation in them. But I don't understand the way you people fight about it. You fight, say that we, Jehovah's Witnesses, have the real religion. The real religion. Others say, well, we Roman Catholics have it. And the Muslims say, no, it is in the Quran. And this is the right way. 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 And somebody else gets up, and he may be a rather highbrow Catholic, and say, well, God has given the Spirit through all the traditions, but ours is the most refined and mature. And then somebody comes along and says, well, as I said, they're all equally revelations of the divine. And in seeing this, of course, I'm much more tolerant than you are. You see? Now how that game is going to work? See, I can take this position. Supposing you regard me as some sort of a guru. And you know our gurus hate each other. They're always putting each other down. And I can say, well, I don't put other gurus down. See, that outwits all. See, we're always doing that. We're always finding a way to be one up. And by the most incredibly subtle. So you see that, you see? And you say, I realize I'm always doing that. And tell me, how do I not do that? How do I not do that? This is the right way. This is the right way. This is the right way. How do I not do that? This is the right way. How do I not do that? This is the right way. This is the right way. This is the right way. How do I not do that? This is the right way. How do I not do that? See, what do you want to know? Oh, I'll be better that way. Yo, why do you want to be better? Why do you want to be better? Why do you want to be better? You see, the reason you want to be better is the reason why you aren't. We aren't better because we want to be. Because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because all the do-gooders in the world, whether they're doing good for others or doing it for themselves, are troublemakers. Troublemakers. On the basis of kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey, pulling the fish safely up a tree. Kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey, pulling the fish safely up a tree. Kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey, pulling the fish safely up a tree. Kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey, pulling the fish safely up a tree. Kindly let me help you or you will drown, said the monkey, pulling the fish safely up a tree. Kindly let me help you or you will drown. view. And I want to consider the web as something playful. You see, there are so many ways of looking at it. And you will find that all these ways are right. But what we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. Of the view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. There are people, for example, who can see the web as a trap and get stuck with that. There are people to whom existence is simply hateful. They see it as nothing but a ghastly mistake. The Lord really erred when He created this world, because He arranged it in such a way that everything lives by eating something else. And what I'm doing is I'm describing a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. I'm not exactly philosophizing, I'm describing a point of view. You can look at life in such a way that the whole thing is this ghastly mistake. For example, there is no such thing as genuine kindness or love. Everybody is really pretending that they are loving other people in order to get some advantage from them. And indeed, there is a point of view which occurs in certain forms of paranoia, where people don't seem to be real. They are mechanisms. And you can think that out quite intensely with a good deal of intelligence. After all, if you start from a good old Darwinian or Freudian basis and see that man is a material machine and that the consciousness of man is simply a very evolved and complicated form of chemistry, well, then this awful mechanical things, these Frankenstein that everybody hears, they come around and they say, oh, well, I'm alive. I'm a human being. I'm a heart. I love, I hate, I have problems. I feel. And you feel like saying, come off it. You're just a monster. And you put on this civilized act because really you're just a set of teeth on the end of a tube. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. What we need is the fullness of the view. From a certain point of view. From a certain point of view. Which you call your brain or your alleged mind. And this thing is really basically there for two purposes. One, to be cunning enough to get something to eat, to put down the tube, and the other, you know what, Mr. Freud, to eat it. And everything else, you see, can be construed as an elaborate, subtle way of pretending that that's not really what you want to do, but you do. But you put on a great show. Now, some people, according to this geek, reality. Correct? That's given us a certain understanding, but only half of the understanding. Equally important is not what is the tiniest part, but in what context is the tiniest part. You see? In relation to what is it? Just as the word bark, as I showed you, has different meanings in different sentences. So, the cells, molecules, atoms have different properties in different contexts. Different properties in different contexts. The scientist equally needs to study is not simply what is anything when very, very minutely analyzed, but where is it? When is it? That makes all the difference. So do you see that a lot of people who get anxious when they hear that everything is relative have no need to get that anxious. Relativity isn't some kind of slippery morass in which all standards and all directions get lost. Relativity is really the soundest situation that there is. Different properties in different contexts. Different properties in different contexts. Relativity is
just got in the mail. I don't know what that thump was. I just got in the mail. This guy. CRKT hatchet. I'm just going in to get this hammer. When I saw that this came in. Pretty excited about it. I've wanted to have like a legitimate axe for a while. This is super light. I'm thrilled about that. This is something that I want to take hiking with me. If I go on an overnight hike. What I'm hoping to do within a year. One of my fitness goals is to get to a place where I can do that. Alright, so essentially they say on this, the way it mounts on here, it's like that. And that's what it takes to get it on there. I can't say I'm not happy about that. It's got this nice little bevel right there for getting bark off. It's fairly dull from the factory, but I'll definitely fix that. 1055 carbon steel. So should hold an edge pretty well. And I'm going to use this with my hammer for the moment. I'm not sure if these twist or not. If these twist off or not. Given that I'm about 90% positive I'm going to be relocating the toilet, I probably should just cut that out. It doesn't just pop out. Certain that's where that goes. I just don't see a place where it goes in. The electrical. Some jank stuff going on here in terms of the electricity. Some stuff I don't even know what he's got fucking going on here, man. You're talking jank. Why that box isn't over there, I don't know. Kitchen. It's weird.
In exploring the
Maybe I'll put
web
one
of life,
office up here. Maybe that's where I can.
I have thus far discussed two principal
Conservation out
topics.
here.
First, the web considered as selectivity, experience considered as what we pay attention to on the one hand and what we ignore on the other. And I showed how the way in which we pay attention to the world creates, isolates, that we call particular things, events, and persons, and they seem to be disconnected and to be alone because we ignore the connection between them. And I used the analogy of weaving, where the threads go underneath and join on the back in a way that is not seen on the front. So you might say in the unconscious, although I don't particularly like that word, because it makes it seem as if it was something rather
I have to
dead.
make a leather
But on the unconscious
board. I
side
happen to have
of life,
some.
as on the back of the weaving or the back of the embroidery, there are connections which are
Visibility
not
for that.
published. There are connections which are not published. There are connections which are not published. There are connections which are not published. Now, in the second part of the theme was the web as mutuality. And I
And then I'll look
discussed
at the video on how to do
the
that.
way the existence of a web, the existence of a class, or anything like that, depends on a mutual support of the walls and roof. And this miraculous thing occurs that when the things support each other,